If we start then with the first question, can you tell us your name and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Roman Alekseev, and currently I'm Director of Engineering in a startup called InfluencerDB.
Mm-hmm. And what are InfluencerDB? How do you guys make money?
Well, because it's really hard to explain, like in quick one sentence, what we're doing. That's why I have this overview about what company is doing written in the sentence. So InfluencerDB is an influencer marketing technology company operating as a SaaS model with our software, the Influencer Marketing Cloud, the name of the software that we're building called Influencer Marketing Cloud. And we give businesses access to world-class operating system for influencer relationship management.
Okay. So is that kind of like if a brand wants to target an influencer for marketing their brand, you're connecting them to the right people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So given that you're a brand and you would need to know what are good influencers and what are not good influencers, because you don't want to deal with fake influencers. You want to work with influencers with good metrics, good KPIs, and therefore you need somebody like us to find these influencers, because there is no way how you can find influencers on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so basically, you can find, you can see that this influencer has certain activity, but there is no chance for you how to check whether these followers are fake or not, whether those bots are not. And so we're doing this analysis, we're doing this discovery for our clients, for our customers, and then we're providing our insights on this.
Right. I never knew that you could be a fake influencer. So there are people that buy a following and then try and sell that to brands, like a con.
Yeah, why not?
Huh. Well, I guess then...
Scammers there everywhere.
Yeah, I guess it's the internet, isn't it? So as a director of engineering, what does that mean? What do you do here?
I would say I'm helping the team, the engineering team, to achieve our goals, and also helping with the processes of day-to-day tasks. I'm defining the goals, managing people, trying to work not only with the team but also with every and each individual in the team. Make sure that everybody is happy in the team. Make sure they're growing as an engineer, and I would say just helping the team to achieve something bigger and build the good software, which is not too much buggy on one hand and performant on the other hand. So something like this.
Okay, so you're kind of balancing out the the quality of work and probably the pressures of we needed it yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. On the other hand, sometimes you need really to push back.
Yeah.
The features that our management team wants yesterday. Yeah, exactly. Nice.
So you're a Russian guy, right?
I'm a Russian guy.
Yeah. So how did you end up in Cologne?
So I think it started 4 or 5 years ago when I thought that it's better to move for myself and for my family from Russia to Europe. At that point of time, I didn't know where do I want to go exactly, which I knew that I don't want to stay longer in Russia. I think we're going to skip this details, and because you're mostly interested in how did I get there, and so I just started to send a resume, and then it was quite quick and easy process with Trivago, my first employer, and I think everything happened in 1 month, and then I started the visa process. And then in September 2015, I relocated to Düsseldorf first. After some time, I also moved my entire family after, I think, 2 months. And so Trivago helped with all this relocating. I'm this is not an advertisement, that this is just facts,
Yeah, no, that's fine, even if it is. If they do a good job, people should probably hear about it.
Yeah. And so then after after some time working for Trivago, in the beginning I started as software engineer there, mostly based on the main search engine front end. And then after some time I moved to another team called Retention. The responsibility of that team was to build a member area. This is a special area where registered users can see their personal data, their bookings, their reservations, favorites, etc., etc., and also additional features that are only available for users, for registered users, for members, such as price history, such as price alerts back then, and many more. After some time, I became a tech lead of retention domain. Then, after due to some internal restructures in Trivago, I became tech leader of retention domain. But then, after third or fourth internal restructure, I didn't really like it, because I was in a situation where I was in the middle of nowhere. I felt like I'm not really a manager, I'm not really an engineer, so who am I? And then that was a clear time to go, I think, for me.
Yeah.
And approximately the same time, my colleague approached me, well, would you like to try in InfluencerDB? Because he just joined InfluencerDB, and they're looking for somebody who would lead their front-end team. And I said, yeah, why not? And this is how I end up here in Cologne. And then 1 year ago, I think September, so 1 year, September 2018, I moved to Cologne from Düsseldorf. And that's where we also started with our Web Meetup Cologne.
Nice. So I'm interested in going just back to the point where you mentioned about the relocation part.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you didn't set out with a view of I really want to live in Cologne or Düsseldorf. It just kind of happened as a part of your job search. The visa process. When I talk to people that are relocating, they're sometimes a bit nervous about that process. So I assume that you would have gone through like the blue card application process. How easy or difficult is that to do?
I did one mistake, because the first time I came to German embassy, I didn't have all the documents required for this.
Oh.
And then I was...
What were you missing?
Yeah. So it was my fault, completely my fault.
Yeah.
And then I just... I really was stressed back then, because I didn't know whether Trivago will shift the date of starting date with me, whether they send me a new contract. But again, that was very smooth, because I contacted them, explained the situation, and then they just resend me the contract, the new one. And then the problem is, because I was living in St. Petersburg, and for applying for visa, for blue card, there is quite a queue there. So I think you need to wait, back then, you need to wait 1 month before your appointment, at least. And so you can understand my frustration, where I was waiting for my appointment, and then I failed, and then I would need another one in 1 month. And this was like... So, but then I was really careful with all the documents that I need to prepare. I prepared everything needed, maybe even more than needed. And then I was on the safe side, so visiting, again, embassy in 1 month with my family, applying. And then after 2-3 weeks, I got visa. Oh,
nice. So that is probably slower now. We just helped one guy from Ukraine, another guy from Russia. Both of them went through the blue card process, and the guy in Ukraine had to wait 3 months for his appointment. The guy in Russia had to wait 2 months. But the guy from Russia was calling the embassy almost every morning and saying, have you had any cancellations? And he got a cancellation. So he ended up actually doing it in like 5 or 6 weeks.
What city was there?
Pardon?
What city? From Russia? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I feel like it's St. Petersburg. but I'm not 100% sure.
I see.
But yeah, it's probably taking the queues are longer now than they were when you relocated, but they're just as a bit scary, stressful. But actually, I think once you've had that embassy meeting, it kind of smooths out, and then it's not as stressful. Finding the accommodation is probably the harder part. So how did you move? Did you move to Düsseldorf and find an apartment straight away, or did you go to like an Airbnb and then search afterwards?
Yeah, it's I think you're asking this question because you do understand and realize how difficult it is to find an apartment in Düsseldorf or in Cologne. And the thing is, I like to. I have a joke about it. You don't choose apartments in Düsseldorf or in Cologne. Apartments choose you. So
that's probably very true.
Yeah. You just come, and then you also come along with 10 other people who are most likely Germans or German speaking.
What, on the same?
On the same, yeah. So they sometimes they have an appointment like 15 minutes each, but then you always end up with a queue, like standing in front of the apartment and then waiting when the landlord or a person who's showing the apartment will let you in, so you can see the apartment. And then you also feel very stressed about it, because and then what you do, like you have like 3-4 minutes to see the apartment, and then you leave documents, and then they call you or not call you. Most likely they won't call you.
Oh wow!
But because for some reasons. But going back to your original question, when I moved to Düsseldorf, Trivago rents a number of apartments, which provide to newcomers to live for some time. Yeah. So for me, it was agreed that I would have a room. It's a room and shared apartment. So there were 3 guys from Trivago living in that apartment, and so I took one of the rooms. And you have to pay for this, so Trivago doesn't cover this. But on the other hand, like this is ideal case for you because like you just knew it's obviously cheaper than Airbnb, definitely. On one hand, on the other hand, you won't be able to find something quick anyways. So I got this apartment for I think 1.5 months. And then I got lucky because another Trivago employee, he moving out to Berlin, and he just re-rented his apartment to me. Not rented, but the process was simple. It's just, I just need to apply directly for this apartment. There was no show time for this apartment, so I was just the only person to take this apartment.
Dream. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that really helps. Knowing people in the city that have got accommodation, that's like
for sure.
the dream.
Once you have, in this network, somebody always, especially within the bigger company, someone always living in their apartments and want to find somebody else to come in. Because normally you have a notice period of 3 months before you can leave your apartment. But it's happened quite often that people want to leave their apartment 1 or 2 months after. So they either need to pay for 1 month additionally, or they find someone else. And if landlord accepts this person, then he can move earlier.
Yeah, that's the perfect situation for everyone then, really, isn't it? Yeah. So it always helps having friends in the city. But I guess when you're moving from somewhere completely disconnected, like St. Petersburg for the first time, I think you got in a good situation. You got lucky. Trivago really helped. Yeah, that's excellent. So if there's any companies that listen to this podcast and they're thinking, how can we make it easier for us to hire people? They should be helping their lives. If they can help with paying for maybe the first month's deposit, or building a network of apartments, then they'll find it much easier to actually recruit people for their business. So
where should I look at here? This is like for companies. If you are hiring people from abroad, please make sure you're helping them to find apartments.
Perfect. You heard it from the right guy. Yeah. So how have you found, because you've lived in Düsseldorf and Cologne and St. Petersburg, which will give you a perspective of the differences in the cultures. How would you describe life in Cologne to someone that has never visited the city?
I find life in Cologne similar to Düsseldorf, I would say, because they are very similar in a way. They were pretty much destroyed during the Second World War, and so that means Cologne and Düsseldorf have nothing to really to see. Like it's, if you go in the center of the city, you still might see some older buildings and some attractive buildings like Dom here. But if you go a little bit outside of the city center, then you would see like those monolithic, like copy paste buildings.
Yeah.
And so people won't come to Düsseldorf or Cologne just to see the city, I think. Nevertheless, Düsseldorf is very comfortable to live, and I think it was some rating from 2005 or something. I think Düsseldorf was 6th the most comfortable city to live in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there are multiple editions where you can find this information. That was from one magazine or something, but I clearly remember this like 6th place. And Cologne, I feel it's pretty similar to Düsseldorf. It's a bit bigger. It's I feel also it's not that rich as Düsseldorf. I think because I'm a family guy and I have kids, and when my son went to kindergarten in Düsseldorf, it was for free. So after 3 years, once your son or daughter is more than 3, then in Düsseldorf you can go to kindergarten for free. Here you need to pay for this because it's not for free, obviously, because the kindergarten, they still need to cover all the expenses, but government of the city covers this.
Okay.
And also I feel like the quality of roads when I'm driving here in Cologne is not that good as in Düsseldorf. So, and also Düsseldorf is a fashion capital of Germany. So also maybe this also affect this.
The image of the city.
Sure. But I don't think that people come here for the beautiful cities. They are going here because I think overall, like, this area has many smaller cities, not that big cities.
Yeah.
But the metro area is quite has high density.
Yeah.
Like Bonn, Cologne, Düsseldorf, Duisburg, Dortmund. Like, all of this gives you like several million people living in this area.
Yeah, the infrastructure here seems very well connected. Like, you've got a high number of airports. The local transport's quite good.
Yep.
You're geographically fairly close to lots of European cities, so you can get to London, Paris, Zurich, Munich, the Netherlands, Amsterdam, all within maybe 3 or 4 hours. So it's got a really good geographical location for business. But even so, we still see a huge amount more people relocating to Berlin and Munich than we do to Cologne and Düsseldorf. But that still follows a trend that there's lots of people that want to come to Germany, especially for technology opportunities. And I was wondering why that is, why Germany is such a prominent destination for people to relocate to, for technology anyway.
For me, it's a combination of 2 things. First, technology. If you look on Germany geographically, you can see that this is basically the center of Europe on one hand, and of course Germany has very strong technical center, technical hub, as you mentioned, especially in Berlin and Munich. I'm not sure why is this exactly, but my feelings that you can find all the bigger companies presented in these cities. While here in this area, you can't find Google, Amazon, Facebook, none of this. While in Munich you have Google, in Berlin you have Amazon. And I felt it myself when I started to look for a new job when I was still in Düsseldorf, because I think almost every second advertisement were from Munich or Berlin. A lot of startups, I think the startup arena is very, very good in Berlin. It's also good here, I would say, but I think it's not even close to what we have in Berlin.
No, I would agree with that. There's more access to investment in Berlin. There's a much more competitive technology community. But saying that, the technology community in Cologne is still, I think, quite good. Which I guess leads on to what you're doing in the community with your meetup group. So it's called Web Meetup Cologne.
Exactly.
And you founded it last year.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you set it up?
I'm going like a couple of months before we created Web Meetup Cologne. That was still my last month in Trivago, and I gave a talk in Web Düsseldorf, how they call it, Web Engineering Düsseldorf, I think. Web Engineering Düsseldorf, this is another meetup created by my ex-colleague from Trivago. And another day he just approached me whether I have a topic to talk on their meetup. And so back then I created a small, I wouldn't say it's a startup, but a small project. And I just wanted to share with people how I built this project alone. I think I built it like for 2 years, and then I just wanted to share this experience. And so this was my first experience dealing with meetups as a speaker. And then I thought, I already knew that I would be moving to Cologne.
Yeah.
And I thought, it might be a good idea to create something similar in Cologne. And then, of course, the first thing that I did was I checked whether they have already in Cologne some similar meetups. And then I found that, of course, there are some number of meetups here, but they are either in German, they are either too small. They, for example, have a limit of 20 people who can participate in the meetup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it.
That sounds strange.
Yeah.
I would have thought you would want more people at your meetup.
Or it was very local in terms of topics. So, I don't know, WordPress only. And
so quite niche events then.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I moved to Cologne, and then I started to investigate more on this topic, and then I clearly saw that there was a room and chance for this meetup to be successful. Approximately the same time, I met the co-organizer of the meetup, and then we discussed it briefly, and then I was surprised how fast it happened. And we also agreed, I remember we sat in the same room, in the same table.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then we discussed like what should we do about it and when should we create. And then we decided not to leave it to the next month and then to the next month, because if you push something to the next month, then there is a high chance that you will never ever create this.
Do it now or don't do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is what we did. We just created a meetup group. And then from the beginning, like in the first days, of course, there was some people joining without like any announcement for the new meetup. They just were curious, what would be this? And then shortly after, we announced our first meetup. So additional thanks there to speakers who believed in our meetup, because nobody wants to go to a meetup where you would see like 10 people. Nobody wants to be a speaker on this meetup. And so but people believed in us, and we found on the first meetup, I think there were like 25-30 people, considering the fact that in the group we had approximately 100, so it was like 30% of our members being on this meetup.
Okay.
So, and this is how it started, and then that was the first meetup, and then afterwards people started to join our meetup group, and then we started to find more and more sponsors. We started to change companies, change venues, and now we are at 900 members, more than 900 members in the group, and we are doing our meetups monthly. Yeah,
I think I first talked to you about that. Must have been last year, or maybe at the very beginning of this year, and you said you wanted to get to 1,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I think at the time you were less than 500.
I think it was for 400 something.
Yeah. And I remember thinking like, wow, that would be pretty cool to get to that number, because I'd already looked at the meetup groups. I knew there wasn't anything big. I can't host them though, because I'm not a tech guy, and who wants to hear a recruiter talk? So I thought that would be pretty interesting, and you could do it. You got what, six more weeks. So if you don't hit 1,000, you'll be very close. Yeah. And maybe this will help boost some of the numbers. So I think you've done one every month, so you must have done 12 or 13 now. What's the hardest part about running the meetups though? Because you've got to find the venue,
mm-hmm.
you need good, credible speakers,
mm-hmm.
and you also actually have to attract people to come and visit as well. You can't just put it out there and expect mm-hmm. that people will arrive.
I would start with the simplest thing. I think the simplest thing now is to find a place.
Yeah.
Once we have some list of venues, and
mm-hmm.
we're already we have a good credits from those companies, and I think during the last year we changed 9 companies, so we've been in 9 different companies, which is quite impressive to me, because from what I know, Web Engineering Düsseldorf, they're changing like a couple of locations, like 2-3, but of course they are much bigger than us for now. So the simplest now is to find a venue, and then the second would be, I think the second and third layer together, finding good speakers, credible speakers, and make sure that people will come. Because I have insights for you. Unfortunately, we are about to cancel our November's meetup, just because we don't have enough people for the topic that we're going to have.
Oh,
the topic is WebAssembly and TypeScript, and we expected with my co-organizer to have at least 60 people participating, like coming. So I don't know, around 100 registered.
Yeah.
And for now we have too low amount of people registered. And we thought, because normally only 50-60% of all registered people actually arrive. And we decided that we move it to January, because January last year it was very successful. I think that was also January's, maybe it's a new month where everybody okay, we're now starting from the blank page.
Yeah.
Everything is new, we're ready to learn something new, and then they're coming. And so unfortunately, and also we have very good speakers this time, and so that's why we decided not to do it for a little amount of people, but instead to wait until January with this talk, where we would have another shot on this.
Yeah, because I guess your speakers probably won't want to do the same talk twice. Yeah. So yeah, probably a smart move to save them when they're going to have a much bigger audience. So, well, people have got plenty of notice. They know 2 months before that it's going to be in January. Mm-hmm. And, Christmas time's so busy anyway.
Exactly.
People just, they're
December
seeing family, drinking kolsch, all that kind of stuff. So how much of your time does it take every month to organise these meetups?
It depends. Sometimes we're planning 2 or even 3 meetups up front,
mm-hmm.
but sometimes we are really out of time and we can't find any speakers or room, and this is where it becomes a little bit stressful. But overall, thanks to my connections from Trivago and from the network that I built in Trivago, and thanks to Florian's network because he originally from Cologne and he knows many different companies, many different people here, and of course all these things help. So yeah, this is it, I would say.
Yeah, so a couple of hours a month, I guess,
yeah, so it's basically like emailing and then waiting for responses, and then thinking of people I would say like it's not that much. In the beginning it was more, of course, but now since we have this network, it's getting, I think, a little bit easier in a way.
Yeah. Okay. What about the costs of running it? How much does each meetup cost you?
I would say, since we don't have any paid advertisements and we are not paying anything to companies, they're just providing their spaces, and they provide cold drinks and food for free. We're only paying for meetup.com for the supporting our group there, for running group. It's not free. If you want to have unlimited amount of members in your group, then you pay, I think, €60 or 50-60 euro for 6 months.
Okay. So costs are fairly minimal then.
It is.
I guess the businesses that are hosting them are benefiting from having a relevant pool of people in their office, helps their employer branding.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're going to give you the space. I didn't realise they would cover the cost of the food and the drink, though. So that's excellent. That's a good setup for you guys to have. So finding a speaker can be fairly difficult. And I'm wondering what you think makes a good speaker.
I think it's a hard question and simple at the same time, because I don't know how to answer this really. I think when people are really listening to speaker, when it's not boring, when there always should be jokes in the talk, otherwise it's getting too technical or maybe too boring. I think these are the main principles of a good speaker.
So you need someone that is engaging to listen to, that can kind of capture a room's attention. Do you necessarily need a speaker who's working on like the latest, sexiest, and most amazing tech? Or do you just need someone that's really, really good at doing what they do?
Absolutely not. Even if an engineer is working on not the latest technologies, then he obviously has anyway something to share with. Everybody has something to share with other people. You always can learn from anybody, and so with this said, I think anyone can be a good speaker.
Okay, so I'm wondering if being the host of a meetup group that's actually quite successful has had any benefits to you personally, either in your career or in your profession.
I don't feel something like this as of now. Well, except the fact that we're now talking to you guys. No, I'm really now willing to create a community of people in Cologne who's meeting offline regularly. Because unfortunately, as I mentioned before, we have only 50, 60, maximum 70% showing up rate, which is quite normal for Meetup, but sometimes it's really frustrating when you see really good topic, when you put so much effort into making this happen, and then people subscribing and not showing up. And so this is one thing. I sometimes I can't understand why is this happening. Well, I do understand though. It's for free, and when you register, you are not obligated to come. It's just you just think like, okay, I'll put it to my calendar, and then I come, or I'm not coming if I have something more urgent. But then I think people need to start thinking that it is people's effort, and then it would be much better if they can adjust their attendings. Like if they knew in advance they wouldn't come, it doesn't make any sense for us that they subscribe. So we see the more realistic number when we prepare, because also when we see these numbers, we need to prepare a certain amount of food. Drinks is not a problem, because anyways they have like a fridge of drinks. There's not a problem. But when it comes to food, it's really unfortunate to see like just much food wasted. Because we not everybody show up. So this is very unfortunate.
Do you think Meetups' idea of I think it was a €2 or $2 RSVP fee, there was a huge backlash online. There was more people saying this is a terrible idea, it's going to kill Meetup. But actually that would help subsidise some of the costs for the organisers. And also, I know it's only €2, but that extra commitment might actually increase the attendance rates. So I wonder if actually it could be a good thing for Meetup to introduce.
I think the problem is that even if we say that you need to pay €2 to come, I think you're only coming when you come, or you're only paying when you come. I'm not sure how it works on Meetup. I saw this option. I've never used it. I need to check it. By the way, it's a good idea. Because if they're paying through Meetup.com, so they already paid, and so I think that's where the rate would be higher.
Yeah.
But if they're paying when they come, I think that wouldn't change much.
Yeah, it wouldn't. The most of the comments I've seen have been from people who attend Meetups. There hasn't been a lot of comments from people that host them, and so a lot of the reaction was just like a knee-jerk, what the fuck, man, like, why are they monetizing the community, man? Like, people didn't like it. But if you actually stop and think about it, it could be a good idea. But from the reaction, they've withdrawn it, and they said it was a test and they're not going to implement it, which depends on your opinion. Could be a shame, could have been a good idea. So do you find the Meetup events make hiring people easier?
Sorry, what is this?
Do you find your Meetup events makes recruiting people in your team easier in any way?
We are not associating ourselves with the Meetup. We want this Meetup really be independent of our hiring processes as in InfluencerDB. Of course, we have a section where we give our sponsors to talk. So normally when we're starting our introduction speech, and then we have a slot where a person from the company comes to the stage, and then he can say a couple of words. They can advertise that they're hiring or say whatever they want. So this is beneficial for them, and of course we appreciate that these companies provide the space there, and this is our thanks to them. But on the other hand, we're not associating ourselves, like me and Florian. We're not saying that Web Meetup Cologne is a meetup created by InfluencerDB. No, never. Because right now, Florian is no longer with InfluencerDB. He's working for another company, and we're still running this together. So this is what we agreed also on this table on the day one, and this is why we're not making any benefit for our companies from this. Because I think it's very important to be honest with our members and not in a way like putting too much advertisement in our meetup. Because I think also we have quite good visiting rate, and this is due to fact that we don't bullshitting our members and our community.
Keeps a level of integrity, doesn't it? And trust from your members. So I guess my final question is, I'm curious about the value of Meetup. I wonder if you and Florian could have created the same community and the same events, but without the Meetup platform.
How would it look like? Like as a conference?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder if you could do it another way of, if Meetup didn't exist, would the same community events exist?
It's a good question. Because Meetup is a platform where you can easily reach people who are already interested in Meetups. So this is a very targeted audience. While if you go to where you can find more people interested, maybe Facebook would work potentially, but audience is not that targeted. I'm not sure. Like it's something I think to think about. What would you do if Meetup.com would not exist? But I think social networks, Twitter, networking that we already have, maybe finding all the bigger companies in Cologne and sending cold emails to them, like advertising our not Meetup anymore, but like let's still go to the event. So this might be the some steps that we might do without Meetup.com.
Yeah, there's like media talk about Meetup might not exist in a few years' time, and that got me thinking, where is the real value in Meetup in the first place? I feel like it stimulates people to create events, and it does maybe drive more people to create their own communities. And so I feel like that is probably the most valuable part of Meetup, and its actual tool of organisation could become anything, but it's just driven more community events. But anyway, I'm sure Meetup will be around for years. I don't think it's going to disappear anytime soon. So that's pretty much all the stuff that I wanted to ask you about, Roman. Is there anything that you would want to add to our conversation?
No, I think
a shameless plug if InfluencerDB are hiring people.
No, I wouldn't say I would make it. I would just want to thank you guys for coming and for giving this interview, giving me a chance to talk about it, because I think it's a good beginning, and what you're doing it should be definitely beneficial for some people out there who want to relocate to Germany, or who want to support our meetup somehow, or to participate in our meetups, or maybe they'll also share my thoughts on why registering and coming to meetups is important.
Yeah, that's something people don't think about. They don't appreciate the effort that you guys put in before the event. They just think, it's on anyway, I don't need to go.
Exactly.
So we'll probably maybe turn that little piece into a short video and maybe drive that message that if you're going to not go to Meetup, maybe let them know before, and just commit. If you wanted to go in the first place, you might still want to go when it's on.
I'm not asking to be appreciated for the fact that I'm doing this meetup. Nobody asked me for do this meetup. This is my decision. I'm not saying you need to pray now to me, but what I'm saying is that if you if you're registering that, please come. If you don't register, please just you don't come, please just unregister. It's that simple, one click and you're done.
Awesome. All right. I think that's a nice finish, yeah?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Super. Good job, Roman.